The Ukrainians still can advance. And we can see that they're digging in on some parts of this territory, especially if there's, like a river flowing or some other position that is very interesting for them to hold. But I talked to one Ukrainian military expert who said that he thinks there's still potential for them to go a bit further up north. Now they control the city of Sucha, but it might be that they are still, if they pull in more people, which is necessary, and that's also a question if they will do it, because all the other parts of the front are still burning. That hasn't changed, but then they could potentially expand the territory that they are holding.
A strategically important bridge has been destroyed by Ukraine's air force as their incursion into Russia continues. The bridge links parts of the Kursk region that are still controlled by Russia and areas where Ukraine has made advances over the last 10 days. Olivia Kortas is Ukraine correspondent for the German newspaper Zeit and has been speaking to troops in Sumy, a town on the Russia-Ukrainian border, and in Donbass, and she joins us now. Olivia, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Really interesting to speak to you this morning, given, I suppose, the potential for a morale boost for Ukrainian troops, given these sort of apparent gains. What did they sort of say to you? What did it feel like to be among them?
Yeah, well, it's been really striking how confident, how focused as well these men have been that I could meet. I've been just to other parts of the front line a week prior to my visit to Sumy, and there has been a mood shift, for many months now. The Russian had the initiative in this region, in everywhere, basically, along the front line. And I had soldiers talking to me about, people dying very quickly, especially new soldiers who just came to the front line dying very quickly because they don't have the experience. And well, what I saw in Sumy, that I haven't seen that, I think, for at least a year, just prior to the offensive in 2023, they have really been happy. That has been a motivation boost for Ukrainian soldiers, for sure.
Yeah, that's amazing to hear. In terms of the incursion, what are the objectives? Are they clear on what a sort of victory in this chapter of the fight actually means?
Well, we can't really say what the overall goal is because we don't know how this will develop. And there's a lot of secrecy. Commanders don't command this issue. And if you ask press officers, they will just reject all of your, all your requests. So basically, at the moment, there's really a huge secrecy around this. But what we can see, first of all, is I think this motivation boost we were just talking about, also among the civil population, like people really are happy and are, I think, not that depressed as they've just been two weeks ago. And then, of course, the Ukrainians hold Russian territory. We don't know if they want to hold it on a longer term or if they just will go out soon. That is also an option because then they could just embarrass Russia without losing many troops and basically threaten Russia that this might happen again at other parts of the front line. But I think at that moment that they will try to hold some territory. And of course, if there is going to be future negotiations, then this is good for Ukraine to have the initiative right now and to not be that weak militarily if they're going to talk to Russia.
That's so the strategy there is that exactly that. So a demonstration of strength like this means that any sort of peace negotiations, Ukraine can go in and say, well, look at the progress we're making. Look how much we're winning. We're in the position of strength. Russia, you need to give in at this point. I wonder if the Kursk region becomes entrenched, if they must hold it in order to be able to maintain that strategic advantage, because as far as I'm aware, Olivia, there is no indication of imminent peace negotiations at this point.
Exactly. So it's going to be months and months. And now very important is if the Ukrainians will be able to set up logistics, to set up safe supply routes, to also be able to evacuate as well men as also equipment. And that's like they're not that far yet because it's for them very hard to work on Russian territory. There's no Starlink working. They don't have internet connection. So they told me that the possibility for them is to talk over radio, but also over Russian SIM cards if they want that. But that makes them trackable. So these are at the moment their challenges. They are working on it. They are trying to, to be able to see the territory that's lying ahead, to be able to communicate with each other. But I know that at the moment that's really hard. And if, I talked to one guy who's basically setting up logistics for his artillery unit, and he told me that the evacuation of one, he didn't actually say which vehicle it was, but I understood some armored vehicle, took him several hours, 4 hours in the middle of the night, because he wasn't sure if his guys who are evacuating are safe. He was on Ukrainian controlled territory and told me, well, he could see the drones, but he couldn't tell them that there's surveillance drones of the Russians around them. Yeah.
Yeah. In terms of the Russian response to all of this, I saw one report that the reaction of the Russian authorities has been chaotic, that they were caught by surprise, they had no coherent defensive measures in place. How is their response evolving, if indeed it is? Is it still chaotic?
Well, like the Russians haven't had any response basically for the first 48 hours, which was a problem for them, because the Ukrainians had possibilities to cut their logistics and to make it really hard for Russia to defend this. What we can see is that Russia is pulling out units, and we're talking not brigades, but like smaller units, battalions from other parts of the front line. But that also shows that there's no man in the rear that Russia can use. But for now, they have not pulled out many soldiers from one specific part of the front line. They are taking them from along the whole border and the occupied territories. So I think it shows how much Russia is under pressure indeed.
That's really fascinating. And so then we mentioned this bridge that's been destroyed by the Air Force as the incursion continues. So there are these kind of notable wins as well. It doesn't seem to sort of have become attritional at this point. Actually, they are still making gains, the Ukrainians.
Yeah, they are still making gains. And I mean, of course, it has slowed this offensive in the very first days. It's been very fast, and that's normal. That was expectable, because obviously Russia does replies, especially with so-called glide bombs, which the Ukrainians cannot take down, and they are really super destructive. Like you have craters from 10 to 15 meters when such a glide bomb hits the Ukrainians. So no, but so far the Ukrainians still can advance, and we can see that they're digging in on some parts of this territory, especially if there's like a river flowing or some other position that is very interesting for them to hold. But I talked to one Ukrainian military expert who said that he thinks there's still potential for them to go a bit further up north. Now they control the city of Sucha, but it might be that they are still, if they pull in more people, which is necessary, and that's also a question if they will do it, because all the other parts of the front are still burning. That hasn't changed, but then they could potentially expand the territory that they are holding.
Olivia, thank you very much. Really good to speak to you. Thank you for your reporting.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks. That's Olivia Kortas, Ukraine correspondent for the German newspaper Zeit. And so gains still being made. Does Ukraine hold on to this Kursk region until peace negotiations happen? But that couldn't, nobody can tell when that might happen, if it's going to. It's a fascinating thing, and you can read more about it as well in the Times, in the World section at thetimes.com.